It's a pretty common argument amongst anime fans, which is better, the sub or the dub. I personally watch all my anime subbed because, 1, I think it just sounds better in pretty much every show, and 2, I'm of the mindset of experiencing art the way it was intended. Cowboy Bebop is an exception. Its English dub is universally agreed upon to be the superior version, with the king himself, Steve Bloom, Bio Billingsley, Wendy Lee, and Melissa Fon absolutely nailing the characters. I personally can't think of seeing Spike without hearing Steve Bloom's voice. Cowboy Bebop for the PlayStation 1 was released in 1998. It was a Star Fox style game where you pilot the Swordfish 2 with Spike, where of course you'd be chasing down a bounty through different environments before facing off against your target as a boss fight. Yoko Kanno, who composed the show's music, actually returned to create this game's OST. Sadly, it was never released outside of Japan. In 2017, it was announced that a live-action remake of Cowboy Bebop was in development by Tomorrow Studios. Later in 2018, it was announced that the series was picked up by Netflix to become an exclusive there. It stars John Cho as Spike, Mustafa Shakir as Jet, Danella Pineda as Faye, Alex Hassel as Vicious, and Alina Satine as Julia. Oh, and Ein the dog as Ein. As for Ed, we don't know. We know that she'll be in the show, but for some reason they're being really secretive about her casting. And look, I don't want to sound like an asshole, but considering how there's been not 1, not 2, not 3, not even 4, but like 12.5 live-action anime adaptations, all of them have been different levels of terrible. I'm not exactly excited for this show. But I guess we'll see, since it's coming out this year. Here's hoping it'll be better than Death Note. Toonami's Adult Swim's anime blog that airs every Saturday night from midnight to 4 AM. It's hosted by a robot named Tom, who's gone through a couple of voice actors over the years. But the main one has been Steve Bloom. You know, Spike himself. Over the years, many fans became introduced to Cowboy Bebop through Toonami. That, combined with the show's critical acclaim and Steve Bloom hosting the blog, has led to Bebop being a little event whenever it airs on Toonami. Being one of the most critically acclaimed shows of all time, it's no surprise that Cowboy Bebop has been referenced in a ton of games, movies, and shows. Just a few examples include Mass Effect 3, Titanfall 2, Tales from the Borderlands, Regular Show, The Amazing World of Gumball, and Steam Universe. Cowboy Bebop Serenade of Reminiscence was a game released in 2005 for the PlayStation 2 that followed the main cast of Cowboy Bebop on a mission in search for treasure while being followed by a mysterious song and an organization. It was a third-person action brawler with the occasional puzzle. The game also included really long cutscenes that were basically just an entirely new episode of the show. It just looked like this now. The game wasn't received all too well, but Kanno, along with the show's Japanese voice talent, all returned for this game, and just like the PS1 game, this game never saw release anywhere outside of Japan. Bell peppers and beef is a pretty common meal in Cowboy Bebop. It's pretty much exactly as it sounds, bell peppers with beef, along with some mushrooms, garlic, etc. However, in-universe, Spike rarely gets to eat bell peppers and beef because of the lack of money they have, so Jet can really only make bell peppers. There's like 12.5 videos on YouTube about how you can make the Cowboy Bebop bell peppers and beef recipe, and I can't cook, so I don't care, but for those that can, there you go, have at it. Just like any piece of media, the cast of Cowboy Bebop went through a ton of changes during development. The most notable ones being Faye's original concepts, and Ed's original appearance, which was much paler than her final design. As for Spike and Jet, they mostly went through just color swaps. Vicious even went through some pretty drastic redesigns. Though some of these designs would actually make it into the show. For example, in episode 5, you can actually see one of Ed's earlier designs make a cameo appearance. The three old men are a trio of old dudes that keep encountering the Bebop crew throughout their travels, though the parties never actually interact with each other, except one time in the movie where they help Jet deliver anti-nanobots throughout the city via a plane. They're probably the show's most well-known running gag, and their names are Antonio, Carlos, and Joven. They're actually named after the late Brazilian musician Antonio Carlos Jobim. So this is quite simple. Back when it was first announced that there was going to be a live-action Cowboy Bebop show for Netflix, there was a fake rumor going around that they were going to make Ein a husky instead of a corgi. I actually believed this for a little bit, and then, turns out it's not true. It's a really dumb rumor. I don't know how it got started.
Hey, Tom, if you were stranded...
Sorry, what was that?
If you were stranded on a deserted space station...
I think it's time to blow this scene.
Uh-huh.
If you were stranded on a deserted space station and had to pick only one show...
Bebop.
Okay, well, next Saturday it's Cowboy Bebop all night long starting at midnight.
Bang. Bang. Only Toonami on Adult Swim.
So I think it's safe to say that Spike dies at the end of the show. However, director Shinichiro Watanabe stated in an interview in 2013 that it was up to the viewer to determine Spike's fate. He even then said he thinks that the people who simply think that Spike's sleeping are probably right. So, is he dead? I don't know. I guess it's up to us. So he's not. He's not dead. I refuse. Ain's Summer Vacation is a 1-minute short released with a 2012 Blu-ray copy of Cowboy Bebop. It's a simple little short that tells the story of Ain imagining his perfect holiday getaway. Space Dandy is a 2014 anime created by Studio Bones, and had the creative team behind Cowboy Bebop creating it. And because of that, they reference Cowboy Bebop a whole bunch. Due to these references, and the creative team involved, it's led many to believe that Space Dandy takes place in the same continuity as Cowboy Bebop, just several hundred years, if not thousands of years in the future. And while it's never been confirmed or denied, if I had to guess, they're probably just Easter eggs, because Space Dandy's own continuity is a debate itself. While Cowboy Bebop is known for its rich story and characters, the show wasn't originally aiming for that. You see, the project began with Bandai's toy division as the show's sponsors, and worked with the show with the goal of selling spacecraft toys. In fact, Watanabe later claimed he was just told, so as long as there's a spaceship in it, you can do whatever you want. However, upon viewing early footage, it became clear the two visions of the show didn't match each other, so Bandai dropped from the show, leaving Bebop in development hell. That is, until Bandai Visual stepped in to sponsor it, since there was no need to merchandise the show with toys anymore, thus leading to the masterpiece we all know and love. Just like literally every single piece of media out there, there's a dream theory for Cowboy Bebop. Most theories reference the song Blue's lyrics, and the final shot of Spike lying dead on the stairs, or I guess maybe asleep. They also mention how the concept of dreams is mentioned several times throughout the series, along with letting go of your past. And while this theory has more going for it than most dream theories, I don't buy it. I'll link some dream theories in the description below if you're curious as to the specifics of what they say. I'm just not going to get into too much detail about these ones because I think dream theories are just baby's first theory. As pointed out on Reddit by user BebopAva88, Cowboy Bebop might be one long reference to the 27 Club. The 27 Club being a group consisting of mostly musicians who died at the age of 27, like Jimi Hendrix, Kurt Cobain, Amy Winehouse, Brian Jones, etc. And because Bebop has a ton of musical references in it, we'll get to those in a bit, and because Spike dies at the end of the show at the age of 27, and because if you count the movie, there are 27 episodes of the show, could Cowboy Bebop be referencing the 27 Club? I mean, maybe? I think it's more of just a coincidence, but hey, it's not a bad theory. Cowboy Bebop Shooting Star is a 2-volume long manga that was released in 1998. It was created before the show and follows a completely different story involving Spike being the most wanted man in the galaxy. Not only that, but many of the character designs were changed, and Ed was a dude instead of a girl. Originally, the chapters released didn't even come with names. It was only when the manga was translated to English in 2003 that they were finally given official names. It was cancelled only after its second volume, meaning that most, if not all of its plot points went unresolved. Then, in 1999, there was another adaptation of Cowboy Bebop in manga, simply titled Cowboy Bebop. You would think that this one would be more faithful to the show, and while the characters were the exact same as the show, the stories told in the manga were completely different than the ones in the show. I mentioned earlier that the game Cowboy Bebop Serenade of Reminiscence was released exclusively to Japanese markets. However, in 2004, the game was actually promised to come out in the West, with the original cast like Steve Bloom returning to voice the dub. However, during the game's production, Bandai's game division merged with Namco to form Namco Bandai, and well, it seems that due to the merging, the English dub of the game was cancelled, despite the game being playable at E3 2004, and rumors that some voice acting was even completed for this dub. Originally, Ed was going to be a guy, but was turned into a girl to even out the gender ratio in the show, though clearly the people who created Shooting Star got the update a little too late. Despite this, in the dub for both the show and the movie, Faye sometimes refers to Ed as a he. Whether or not this was a mistake or a joke is debatable. Finally, Watanabe said this about Ed: "It's genderless is meaningless. We don't need it. I wanted to create a character that surpasses humanity. I personally think that it might not even be human. Someone from outer space. So, base non-binary Ed?" A majority of Cowboy Bebop's episode titles are actually references to music, whether it be a song or a genre of music. For example, Asteroid Blues is a reference to the blues, Stray Dog Strut is a reference to the song Stray Cat Strut, Sympathy for the Devil being a reference to, well, I mean Sympathy for the Devil, Jamming with Edward being a reference to the 1972 Rolling Stones album Jamming with Edward, Heavy Metal Queen being a reference to the heavy metal genre, Speak Like a Child being a reference to the album of the same name by Herbie Hancock, Black Dog Serenade being a reference to the song Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, and Hard Luck Women being a reference to the song of the same name by Kiss.
Wouldn't it be cool if we got a super smart dog like Ein?
I've been trying to figure out who it is you remind me of.
In 2008, producer Urban Staff confirmed that a live-action Cowboy Bebop film was in development by 20th Century Fox, and that the film was in early stages. Apparently, there were even talks of Keanu Reeves playing Spike, and in 2009 it's reported that Sunrise Animation would be closely involved with the film, and would even have the show's directors and writers as associate producers. It was scheduled for release in 2011, but was delayed several times, despite a complete script being made. As of now, it's technically not cancelled, just in development hell. But let's be real here, it'll probably never happen, especially since the Netflix show is being made. Because there's a ton of people out there who ship characters, myself included. Of course, there's people who ship Spike and Faye, since they're both main characters. Let's be real here, that's the main reason why people ship these characters. However, the show doesn't really hint at anything between the two. In fact, by the end of the show, it's revealed that Faye's grown to love Spike and Jet as a family, but there's nothing suggesting that she's romantically interested in him. And there's even less evidence to show that Spike's into her. I mean, he's into Julia. But in 2006, director Watanabe stated in an interview, "Sometimes I'm asked the question, what does Spike think of Faye? I think that he actually likes her quite a bit, but he's not a very straightforward person, so he makes sure he doesn't show it." This has led some people to assume he's interested in her, but guys, no, he's just talking about her as like a friend or family. People are jumping to conclusions. Cowboy Bebop UT is a short story that's a prequel to the episode Heavy Metal Queen, about Ural and Victoria Turpinskor during their time as bounty hunters. It was available on its own official website, but the website was eventually taken down, though thankfully it was archived. I'll link the story in the description below. Shun Ikiyama is one of the protagonists of Yakuza 4 and 5. While Yakuza and Cowboy Bebop have absolutely nothing to do with each other, Yakuza 4's director, Jun Ohara, claimed in 2013 that Shun was actually inspired by Spike in order to bring an aloof personality to the game. So, without Spike's existence, it's very likely that Shun would be a very different character. In the final episode of Cowboy Bebop, The Real Folk Blues Part 2, when Jet visits Laughing Bull while trying to find Spike, you can actually see a PlayStation 1 in Laughing Bull's tent. And since Cowboy Bebop takes place in the 2070s, you could say Laughing Bull is a pretty retro gamer. Wonder what kind of games this dude's playing. Carol and Tuesday is a 2019 anime created by Watanabe. It takes place on a terraformed Mars where two girls, Carol and Tuesday, become a singer-songwriter duo. Now, because it's a sci-fi show made by Watanabe, of course there's references not just Cowboy Bebop, but also Space Dandy. In fact, most of the show actually takes place in Alva City, the same Martian city from the Cowboy Bebop film. However, due to some continuity errors brought up by Carol and Tuesday, and Space Dandy being shown as an in-universe show, has led many to believe that these connections are just Easter eggs. Though some believe that Bebop and Dandy are both canon to Carol and Tuesday, while others just believe that they're in-universe shows in the universe of Carol and Tuesday. So at Cartoon Network's main building on the stairwell, the artist who designed Spike drew him on a wall alongside other pieces of art. Years later, an internet cartoon network drew over this original drawing with a smug smiley face. Trigun is an anime released in 1988 about a dude named Vash the Stampede, Meryl Streep, Billy Thompson, and my favorite character, Nicholas D. Wolfwood, traveling around a dying world. It has absolutely nothing to do with Cowboy Bebop, outside of it being a space western action show as well, and being released in 1988. However, because released around the same time as Cowboy Bebop, and, like I said, similar genre, there's been a rivalry between the two franchises. And by rivalry, I actually just mean fans of each show often like to compare the two. The franchises have never even acknowledged each other as far as I know. It's a really dumb comparison in my opinion, because they're such different styles of shows. It's like comparing Star Wars to Star Trek, like yeah, they're both sci-fi, but they do completely different things. So the YouTube channel Suckaday took the 85 minutes of cutscenes from Serenade of Remembrance and uploaded all of them, subtitled, and arranged them to create an unofficial Bebop film titled Cowboy Bebop, The Song Remains the Same. God, I wish this game got an official English dub. To celebrate the NBA 2020 playoffs, sports news website Bleacher Report created a parody of the Cowboy Bebop opening using basketball players. Not much else to say other than I think it looks kinda weird. Probably one of the most obscure pieces of Bebop media are the two fan-made Japanese-only novels, Wild Man Blues and Code Memory. Wild Man Blues is a sequel episode to episode 3 of the show, in which Spike has to rescue Ein after some criminals kidnap him, and by the end of it, they become friends. Then there's Code Memory, which is an origin story for Ed. This one's really dark, as the story shows that after leaving the orphanage, Ed discovers the dead hacker Radical Edward, and with that, found a virus that contained Edward's personality and hacking skills. Before she could do anything, the virus infects her through her goggles, and basically morphs her personality and behavior to become just like Radical Edward. Because they're both fan-made, neither are actually canon, but still interesting to learn about. Just wish I could read them. Cowboy Bebop Session XX, aka Mishmash Blues, was created once Cowboy Bebop was briefly cancelled after the first 13 episodes aired in Japan. It was a compilation episode that the main cast provided philosophical commentary over clips from previous episodes. You're probably wondering, why was Cowboy Bebop briefly cancelled? Well, in 1998, there was a serious problem of violence in Japanese schools, and due to the violence being portrayed in Bebop, it was decided to briefly cancel Bebop until the violence cooled down. So far, this episode has never been released on DVD, though you can find it online. It's unknown if we'll ever get any more official Cowboy Bebop stories, as Watanabe said he shouldn't just keep making Cowboy Bebop sequels for the sake of it, and to quit while we're ahead when people still want more is more in keeping with the Bebop spirit. However, in 2006, when he was asked about possibly making future Bebop stories, he responded with this: someday. Maybe someday.
4 cowboys, 4 bounty hunters, 4 hearts, 4 notes. Following a dusty trail of money, sin, and desperation. Living day to day, dreaming hour by hour. 4 beats, 4 parts of a movement. Mars to Venus, Callisto to Ganymede. Bounty to bounty and outlaw to outlaw. 1 ship, 1 crew, 1 destiny. Cowboy Bebop.
So I've been given secret documents behind-the-scenes journals that reveal a bunch of planned Cowboy Bebop story ideas that were ultimately scrapped last second. Sadly, most of it's written in Japanese, but some of them were conveniently written in English. So, without further ado, the 4 story ideas that have never been leaked before, and will certainly see me getting sued by Sunrise for leaking them. These are totally 100% serious. I wouldn't joke about this. These are real. These are not outlandish, they're real. Spike's death at the end of the show reveals that he's actually the reincarnation of Jesus Christ. Jesus, grown tired of humanity, had come back and fallen into depression, thus becoming Spike. Spike's final line, "Bang," was Jesus beginning the apocalypse. Julia was never actually killed, but instead faked her death so that Spike would move on with his life without her. Ultimately, this plan backfired as Spike went out for revenge, dying in the process. The episode Toys in the Attic is actually the final episode in the series. Every episode afterwards is simply the crew's minds slowly fading as they each die from the Blob's venomous attacks. Session 27 was the final episode of Cowboy Bebop that was scrapped. It had Spike being saved by the remnants of the Red Dragon Syndicate, who only saved him because they feel that he should be the new leader as he killed Vicious. However, in order to save his life, they needed to transfer Shin's organs into Spike. Spike briefly accepts the role as leader as a cover to eventually escape, but is haunted by Shin's spirit, which is now taking partial control over his body. Eventually, Spike helps Shin move on, while Shin helps Spike escape the Syndicate. The final scene sees Spike reunite with Jet and Faye, and the three take off in the Bebop for one more job. And so that's it. I'm going to be real with you. A lot of these aren't really iceberg worthy, but I just wanted an excuse to talk about Cowboy Bebop, so, you know, there you go. I don't expect this to get many views, but oh well. If you guys would like more of these short iceberg videos in between the big ones, let me know in the comments. And so, yeah, also I need to clarify this, because I know there's going to be like at least one person in the comments. The final tier is a joke. It's not real. It's obviously not real. I just need to clarify that, because for some reason, there's like a million different people. There's like 20 people or something like that who think that all of the shit in the Call of Duty iceberg, like the final tier, is real. Like Nocturne Totem being real, the Modern Warfare 3 entity, and it's just like, are you kidding? Come on, guys. It's the fakest bullshit in the world. But yeah, don't worry. The Spider-Man iceberg is the next video that will be coming out. Or maybe it won't. Who knows?
I'm eating Oreos in a parked car.